All right. Hello, everybody. Today is August 6th, 2020. This is the Ask Me Anything for the Linchpin Athletics private track. I've gone through the questions. I've got them down on my wonderful piece of paper, and we'll just dive right in. So the first one, the one that got the most upvotes, was from Cameron Talley. 24 upvotes. Cameron, where are you? Scrolling down. It's actually about the private track and making it run and all that. So here we go. Cameron, I'm amazed by how many questions you answer and how you respond to each post. How many hours a day do you spend on social media? Understandable, since it's kind of your job. And that got 24 upvotes. First of all, thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. Well, you're like, understandable because it's kind of your job. Truth be told, to do something like this and to do it right, and that's exactly what it is. It is an occupation. It is a profession. It is a job. If it's treated as a casual, something casual that you do on the side, or a hobby, well, that will be evident in the product, the service, the whole 9 yards, and it's just not how I want to do business. That's not what I would want to be a part of as a member of the community. And so, that kind of golden rule, treat others how you would want to be treated. That's just how it should be done. So how long does it take? It takes a very long time. There's the short answer. So there's always something that has to get done. Always, every single day, depending upon where we are in the cycle. We program in 4-week blocks, so there's a period of time that it takes to flesh out the programming for the upcoming 4 weeks. That takes multiple hours a day. Then once the programming's fleshed out, then you have to go back through and create warm-ups for each day, cool downs for each day, accessory work that fits in based upon what you're doing, a limited equipment version of each, a scaled version of each workout, a no equipment version of each workout, goal times and rounds, which involve number crunching to figure out where I think people will actually fall on that, movement demonstration videos. Then obviously there's a video that needs to get filmed for every single day for an explanation so that you all can watch it and educate yourself on what we're doing, the intent of the workout, all that stuff. So it's really easy to fall behind. If I have a lazy day or something like that, that's a terrible thing, because that work that potentially didn't get accomplished on that day, it just has to get added to the next day because the machine is moving forward and certain things have to happen on certain timelines, have to be submitted to be on the whiteboard at certain timelines, and those are not negotiable. They have to happen. And so it takes, it's not impossible, obviously, but it just takes a fair amount of discipline to stay on track. And I've got a lot of organizational tools and spreadsheets where I know exactly what I have to do every day to get where I want to be with the Linchpin community. And I think most people underestimate, in my humble opinion, how much time they actually have each day if they remove some things that most people do. The day can just be full of time-wasting activities. So it just depends on what your goals are, right? But I've got certain goals that I want to accomplish, both personally, professionally, with my family and all that, and I've kind of fleshed out what do I need to do to accomplish those goals. So I wake up, on average, probably 2 hours before anyone in my family gets up. So I've got 2 hours of just uninterrupted quiet time. And that's not spent on the couch or watching TV or flipping through the news, which is generally makes me sad and appears to be worthless. I just get up, I pour myself a cup of coffee, and I just start working right away. Start getting on those tasks, whether it's, like I said, the programming, the warm-ups, the cool-downs, the goal times, what's going on the Instagram page, and making sure that's happening, posting what I need to post there, getting on to the Linchpin Athletics Facebook group, which is phenomenal. And seeing what's going on in the community, answering questions there, doing these AMAs, etc. So that's about 2 hours every day before anybody gets up. Wife gets up, kids get up, make sure the kids, whatever has to happen with their little lives, make sure they're fed, happy, and healthy, and all that stuff, get them sorted out. And then it's just back to the computer. And I'm just working all day. It might be from home on whatever it is that I have going on for this or some of my other endeavors, but it's just working nonstop until what would be considered a normal work day at 5 p.m. And then I try to do my best to shut it down then and walk away. But that's one of the challenges, quite frankly, of not letting, a work-life balance is always a tough thing to juggle. And it's tough with any job, but potentially it's a little bit easier with an occupation that when you leave that building at 5 p.m., you get in your car and drive home, that you can leave work at work. And then when you show up at 9 a.m. the next day, well, that's your work day and it can be compartmentalized. I've never had a job like that in my life, so I actually don't know what that's like. In the military and in the SEALs, there's no work-life balance. Your work is also your lifestyle, is also your friends. It's all intermingled. You work every day of the week in some way, shape, or form. You take your work home with you. It's always on your mind. You're always on call. So that's just what I'm used to. I'm not saying that's healthy or good, but that's what I'm used to. And with something like this, where I primarily do this from my computer in my home, Linchpin is, my garage affiliate, which is just 15 feet away from me, it can be really easy to just continually work every hour of every day because you didn't leave some building and drive home, and it can be easy not to separate it. So I have to make a very concerted effort to make sure that I'm present when I'm with my family and present when I'm supposed to be doing something which is not work related. And it's a challenge. I'm not going to lie to you. I struggle there. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, but it's a challenge. And then, when it's time to pour myself into here, I block out the other distractions. I'm not calling my family or friends a distraction, but I block out everything else. And I get in here and I grind. I don't get lost on some random nonsense website on the internet. I work. I knock it out. And if you can make yourself do that, let's say you sleep 8 hours a day, so you're awake for 16 hours a day, you have a lot of time every single solitary day to do a tremendous amount of productive work if you don't watch Dr. Phil, if you don't just look at a normal Facebook feed of just garbage and politics and people screaming opinions at each other, and you get lost down this rabbit hole that you clicked on. And if you don't do any of that stuff, you have a lot of time and you can do a lot of great stuff every single day. But it takes discipline, not to get lost in those other little time sucks, if you will. And the other big thing which makes it so possible, I should say, and that's why we're all here, is the garage gym. The garage gym is a beast. Every day I work out at a different time, just based upon what life throws at me, what the kids throw at me, what the family throws at me, what meetings, calls, whatever it happens to be. And to know that I have the garage gym there, it's always open, it's never closed, and whenever it just suddenly works out in my day, that boom, I can walk 15 feet, I'm in the garage, I'm warming up, I'm working out, and then I'm done. I'm coming right back in here. It's an absolute godsend. It's fantastic. So that's another big thing. And I will also say I try to eliminate. I'm a human being. I can chase the shiny object just like anybody else. So I very intentionally limit, to the best of my ability, the distractions. On my personal Instagram page of Sherwood215, I don't follow a bunch of people. I think I follow less than 30 accounts, because most of the stuff on social media is just meaningless nonsense that it wastes your time. And so I don't want to have that. I don't want to have that waste. I want to use the time that I have in the most efficient and effective manner possible to accomplish the goals that I have set forth and to serve the Linchpin community to the best of my ability, and because they deserve it. And so that's kind of that. Okay. And it's fun. I mean, to some degree, don't get me wrong, it's a tremendous amount of work, but it is fulfilling and rewarding. And I'm very lucky and fortunate and blessed to serve the Linchpin community. It's a two-way street. Everybody benefits from improved health and fitness, and I benefit from being able to do something that really does fulfill me and makes me feel like I am doing what I should be doing with my life, with helping others. And it's profoundly rewarding to have a community of people positively interacting with each other, bringing each other up, supporting each other. It's tough to put into words, so it's worth it is probably the best way that I can say it. It's worth it. Okay, the next one, Cameron Vader. At the time that I looked at this, it had 19 upvotes. Let's see where it is. It's about intensity and accessory work. Cameron, he's got a couple. Cameron Vader, here we go, 19. What should the intensity be for the accessory work programmed each week? For example, should an L-sit be to failure? Should a set of shoulder press be maximum efforts? Is the accessory work more about getting the movement, work, and exposure in versus maximum intensity of the WOD? Great question. And obviously, this question was on other people's minds as well. So, yes and no. Sorry to give that answer, but it depends. There are folks out there, and like I said, the accessory work is not a little casual side dish. I mean, it's a full course meal. It can be. And the intensity with which you attack the accessory work can make all the difference. So, for example, let's say the accessory work is, and I'm just making this up, 200 air squats, okay? Just made it up, okay? Relax. 200 air squats. Well, is 200 air squats something which is devastating or not? Will leave you sore or not? Well, it depends. If you rip 200 air squats as fast as you possibly can, and then you lay down on the ground clutching your hamstrings, hyperventilating for air, just rolling back and forth, that's going to leave a mark. If you accomplish 200 air squats by doing only 10 air squats an hour for 20 hours, well, you still did 200 air squats over the course of the day, but you did it in 20 hours versus 4 minutes, okay? Same amount of work, wildly different time domain, wildly different power output and intensity, and the impact that it's going to have on your body is going to be wildly different. So for each person, multiple people could do the same accessory work, and like we say, everything is instantly scalable. You could scale it by just modulating your intensity. Maybe the accessory work is some dumbbell walking lunges, which will certainly leave a mark. Well, if you are the athlete that's feeling it, you want to go for it, and you have built up the capacity where you can expose yourself to some more intensity, and it's a good, beneficial, and positive thing for you, then you can really push the pace with those dumbbell walking lunges and try to go as far as you can before you put them down, and that's going to be appropriate for you. If somebody else isn't quite there yet, but also will benefit from a little bit of lower body strengthening, such as some dumbbell lunges, they could dumbbell lunge the same distance, but very intentionally, they could stop, stand up, and put the dumbbells down well before their legs started to shake and wobble. Shake it out for a bit, rest for 30 seconds for a minute, pick them up again, do a little bit more lunging. When they start to feel, a little bit of that leg wobble start to creep in, they stop right there, stand up again, And so they don't push too far into that pain cave. Again, at the end of that session, both athletes have gotten a stimulus. Both athletes have done the same distance of walking lunge. Both athletes have done something very beneficial to their lower body, but they're going to have a different response to it. And you should, again, kind of did a video about this the other day, but you should always feel authorized to modulate that and to navigate those waters every day based upon your capacity as an athlete and all the other factors that go into your life that determine whether or not you should depress the gas pedal all the way to the floor, or should you just put it halfway down? And should you hit the brakes more frequently today than you should hit them 2 days ago because you felt absolutely fantastic, but now you haven't slept well, etc., etc. So, like everything else, the accessory work is infinitely scalable. With regards to, okay, it says potentially accumulate 2 minutes in an L sit. Well, should that be to failure? Again, I hate to say the yes and no thing again, but I'm going to. Yes and no. And what I mean by that is, variance is a beautiful thing. So let's say, you should have a few different ways variance works. So should the L sit be done to failure? Yeah, every now and then. Maybe you should just go as far as you can, then recover, another just max L sit to failure, then recover, another max L sit to failure, until you accumulate that 1 to 2 minutes in the L sit. Then the next time it comes up, maybe since you did the to failure route the first time, just switch it up a little bit with some variance. Maybe you're going to do a Tabata protocol, 20 seconds of an L sit, 10 seconds of rest, and you're going to do that as many times as it takes to accumulate that 1 or 2 minutes in the L sit. Maybe that's a bit too aggressive for you. You can do a reverse Tabata, where it's 10 seconds of work and 20 seconds of rest. And you're going to do that until you accumulate it. Maybe you're going to do, if you can do maybe a to failure for you on an L sit is, 30 seconds the first time that you get it, and then it's 20 seconds the second time, then it's a bunch of tens. Well, maybe you're going to try to hold sets of 15 seconds, with the rest in between each until you get to 1 or 2 minutes. So that's yet another way to do it. So point being, I would approach something like that with variance, because variance works really, really well. And so that would be my answer on the L sit question. What else did you have in there? For example, okay, a set of shoulder press. Should they all be maximal efforts? Again, it depends on the athlete. Depends on how the athlete is feeling that day. It depends on what we have coming up the next day, what we did the day before. But I will say that in general, no, they don't have to be maximal effort shoulder presses. So let's say the accessory work was 4 sets of 7 on the shoulder press. If you're feeling great that day, you might want to go for a new 7 rep max, you're authorized to do so. However, if you just need to assist yourself and build some more pressing strength, build some more overhead strength, you can go a really long way with 4 sets of 7 that are in the 70 to 80% effort range, so to speak. And just getting in some extra volume, some extra pressing overhead that's hard, that's challenging, that's appropriately challenging. You don't want it to be just laughably easy. Then you're not getting in some good work and stimulating your body. But we also don't want it to be this life-ruining experience that you pushed so hard in the accessory work that you're going to ruin the next couple of days' workout. So like everything else, there's a learning curve involved in this. Like everything else, there's a beautiful symphony of what is appropriate and inappropriate, and there is some experimentation and learning that does occur for sure. But I would say in general, if you're saying that a level 10 is maximum effort, right? Then I would say in that 7 to 8 range is a really nice place to be, and you'll get a tremendous amount of benefit doing something like that. Would I miss anything else here? No, that's kind of it. Is the accessory work more about getting in the movement, the work, and exposure versus maximum intensity of the workout? So yes, the intensity, if you have intensity to bring to one effort for the day, it should be for the workout of the day. And then, you recover a little bit, and if you choose to do the optional accessory work, you certainly do not need to do accessory work to be fit. But if you choose to do the accessory work, you should not feel obligated to bring a workout of the day level of intensity to the accessory work. That is not the case. The accessory work is more about getting in a little bit of extra training, a little bit of extra volume, and we are most certainly ratcheting down the intensity when compared to the workout of the day. So hopefully, Cameron, that helps you. Let's see. Okay. Try to keep myself on track here. Next question that had the most upvotes was from Amanda, and it was regarding the L-sit and some flexibility, and it had 17 upvotes when I saw it. There it is. Okay, here we go. Amanda McD. For the L-sit, I have a hard time getting my body at a 90-degree angle. Using parallettes, my feet touch the floor. What muscles or stretches need work? Fantastic question. I think a lot of people this will resonate with. So, there could be both things, just like you're saying. There could be some flexibility issues and some strength building issues. And luckily, I'm married to a phenomenal gymnast. And she has had a good laugh at my L-sit on more than one occasion, and also luckily given me some tips for that. So if you're just, let's say you're not even trying to do an L-sit, but you're sitting on the floor trying to get your hips at 90 degrees, and that in and of itself is challenging. There could be a tremendous amount of things that are tight, but if I had to guess the primary culprit, it would probably primarily be hamstrings. So we'd want to focus on maybe loosening and lengthening those hamstrings. And then when you get up onto the L-sit and you're having a tough time keeping your legs up there, that can be just a factor of not having the midline strength, the abdominals we're hoping to build at that point in time, and hip flexors as well, to keep the legs up there if the flexibility is there. But that's why we're doing the L-sit and all the other midline work. If that's a bit too challenging for you, again, everything's infinitely scalable. The heck with trying to build up 1 to 2 minutes in an L-sit, building up 1 to 2 minutes in like a tuck with your your knees bent, and you're bringing your knees up to your chest or as close to 90 degrees as you can in a tuck, that is plenty hard for a tremendous amount of people. And building up a 1 minute knee tuck or a 2 minute knee tuck, you will have a very strong midline. And then once you develop that capacity, you can extend one leg out for a little bit and keep one knee tucked, and then switch to the other leg out and one knee tucked. And then when you slowly build up some capacity there, get both legs out. Building up a robust, long L-sit might be one of the hardest things that we're pursuing, above and beyond deadlift numbers, snatch numbers, anything else. As simple and innocent and almost boring as the L-sit looks, it is very high on the list for challenge as far as getting it for a long time. So don't feel discouraged if it is incredibly difficult. It is incredibly difficult, but it's worth the effort. The payoff is worth it. I will also say this. What a lot of us also could work on, this is something that my wife helped me out with from her gymnastics days, is she said they used to do these drills, which I've started doing, and I was shocked at how simple they are, yet how bad I was at them. So imagine you're sitting on the ground. Legs are straight, knees are extended, right? Legs are straight out in front of you, upper body is perpendicular to the ground, so your hips are at 90 degrees. You're in an L-sit position, but you're just sitting on the ground. From that position, take one of your legs, okay? So let's say your left leg's going to stay on the ground, and your upper body's not going to move. And then your right leg, keeping it extended, keeping it locked out at the knee, you're going to lift your heel up off the ground as high as you can, which might only be 2 inches, it might be a foot, wherever it is. And then you are going to shift your leg out away from, towards your, so let's say it's my right leg's now in the center. I'm going to push my right leg out to the right, and then as far as I can, so this will be demanding on your straddle flexibility as well, and then gently lower it till my heel taps the floor, then lift it back up where it's out to the right on a straddle, and bring it back to center, and then bring it right back down to the position that I started in originally. And I do 5 of those with my right leg, slow, and then 5 of them with my left leg, slow. And what that does is, she said they used to do those all the time in gymnastics to strengthen your midline and your hip flexors so that you have the strength to raise one leg up off the ground, and then shifting it out to the side and back down also helps strengthen you and build a little bit more flexibility in there as well. But what a lot of people will find, and it's exactly what I found, when I tried to do that the first time, it sounds so laughably easy, right? Like you're going to sit down, lift one leg up straight, bring it out to the side, tap the heel on the ground, bring it back, tap it nice and controlled. My hip flexor locked up in a way that it's never locked up before, and I found myself rolling around on the ground like in a muscle spasm until it finally relaxed. So I don't know if my hip flexors, even after all my years of training, were weak or unaccustomed to that or whatnot, but I think a lot of us have found in the L-sit, your hip flexors are weak, keeping your legs up, they start to spasm or whatnot, and so that little simple gymnastics drill I have found to be incredibly useful. And she said they would just sit there and do that over and over and over and over again. And so that's something on top of lengthening, stretching out your hamstrings that I think would potentially be very beneficial for Amanda and for everybody else in trying to pursue the good old L-sit. Okay, next question. Pedro has a question. My apologies, Pedro, but it's going to be a short answer, but I get a lot of upvotes, so I'll answer it. Pedro says, you mentioned not having any interest in programming for games athletes. Who do you think is getting it right when it comes to competition-focused tracks? I don't know. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I mean, it's so tough to tell because there are good people that come out of various programs, and some of it could be, there are good programs out there. Some could be the good programming. Some could be, did you have a great athlete that showed up to the program initially and just needed a little bit of polish? How good would they have been with a different program? You have no idea, and I don't track that with enough detail to give an opinion that I think would be valid, and I don't just kind of want to spout off at the mouth. So I'm going to politely move on from that one. My apologies. Charles Baker had 13 likes. Charles, let's see, what was your question about? Oh, I think it's about technique and things that I struggled with when I was coming up. Let's see. Stand by, scrolling through, trying to find it. Charles Baker, here we go. What movement or movements was or were the most difficult for you to become proficient with when you were learning? How did you approach it? Is there anything that you would do differently? Oh, man. What did I struggle with? Short answer, everything. I struggled with everything. And that's because CrossFit is a world of technique and mechanics and beautiful efficiency of motion and core to extremity. And that's not the world that I came from. And that's not the world that most people came from, pre-CrossFit anyway. I came from a world of low technique and single joint movements compared to multi-joint movements, and movements that did not require powerful and explosive hip extension. I came from long distance running, long distance swimming, and then machine-based movements that most of us grew up in when we did Monday and Thursday was chest and tri, Tuesday and Friday was back and bi, Wednesday and Saturday was legs and abs, and you'd sprinkle in some cardio. The leg extension, the leg curl, those don't require balance. I mean, you're sitting on a machine. They don't require technique. You're forced into a range of motion. You can almost disconnect your brain. They don't require core to extremity. They don't require powerful hip drive. concentration curls, dumbbell flies, the whole 9 yards. And so moving from that, from isolation movements at low intensity, machine-based movements at low intensity, segmented training, and then suddenly doing compound, multi-joint, explosive, high-intensity workouts demanding of technique, and not only demanding of technique, but demanding of technique while under fatigue, was an utterly and completely foreign concept, alien world to me, and I struggled greatly. You name it. You name the movement. None of them were easy. Ring muscle-ups might as well be nuclear physics as far as I'm concerned, even though I was strong upper body from a gymnastics standpoint from doing tons of pull-ups in the military and whatnot. Ring muscle-ups, impossible. A clean, trying to actually get me to not use my arms and like reverse curl the barbell, to actually try to understand that somehow my hips were going to like magically get a barbell in the air. I wasn't going to like lift it with my arms. Just could not wrap my head around that in any way, shape, or form. And that's for a power clean. And then you want to talk about a squat clean, a full clean? Like, I'm supposed to do what? I'm supposed to elevate this barbell into the air and then actually get under it? Under falling weight? No way, that sounds ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. That was a nightmare to learn. And then, something as simple, again, double unders? Holy cow. Double unders are just the bane of my existence, and they sound so simple, right? If you have the physical ability to jump 2 to 3 inches off the ground, and if you can move your wrists, you should be able to do double unders. You don't need any more physical prowess than that. But yet the world is full of people that can jump 2 to 3 inches off the ground and spin their wrists and do nothing but just want to throw that jump rope to the other side of the room. And I was that person. I would do a workout like the Filthy 50s, classic CrossFit benchmark workout, which the last movement of the Filthy 50s is 50 double unders. And the last movement, 50 double unders, would take me 10 minutes to do 50 double unders. I despised double unders. And back then, I was a slow, dumb animal, and I probably took far longer to learn all of the aforementioned movements than it should have. First of all, back in 2005, there were some good resources on CrossFit.com, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near the educational videos and resources that are just at your fingertips now. So it was largely just trial and error, largely just whipping yourself with the rope over and over again, largely just trying to yank on the bar harder in the clean until you finally something started to click through just hundreds and hundreds of inefficient movements. So my process took way longer than it should, given what is available now in 2020. So some of the beautiful movement videos that they have on CrossFit.com, on the YouTube channel, with athletes in front of the white wall and the text coming on and pointing at different parts of the body. Oh my goodness, that's just top notch. I'd have killed for stuff like that. So, but nothing also beats having somebody in the room with you who's a talented coach, who knows the movements, who has effective verbal, tactile cues, can demonstrate the movements as well, can look at what you're doing and identify the inefficiencies, identify where the technique is going sideways, and give you a couple of wonderful little points of performance to work on that'll improve you. Nothing beats that, that's for sure. But shy of that, again, all the media that's available to your fingertips, I wish that I had it, because it would have just shortened my curve a very, very, very long way. Okay. Last questions from Ken Brown. I think it's revolving around building an engine. Okay, here we go. Ken Brown. Should we approach workouts differently if we are more concerned about improving engine over fast times, i.e., even pacing that you can maintain for the workout versus going out hot and suffering to the end? What a fantastic question. Absolutely love it. So, and this is a question that comes out all the time. Like, what am I supposed to do? It's a 3-round workout. Am I supposed to go out, Helen, there we go, Helen, 3 rounds for time, 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, 12 pull-ups. Should I go out so hot on round 1 that it significantly impacts and deteriorates my time on rounds 2 and 3? Or should I go out a bit more casual on round 1, something that I think I can sustain, and by the end it turns out to have been appropriate? If I had to give you one answer, this one-size-fits-all thing, which, again, that's usually not the case, but if I had to, I would say that since intensity is king, because intensity, if we remember that wonderful term from the CrossFit Level 1 foundational material, that intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return of favorable adaptation, which means in kind of plain English that intensity is that critical factor that you want to pursue and is needed to get the results that you want out of your strength and conditioning program, be it increased strength, increased speed, better body composition, etc., etc. Intensity, 9 times out of 10, is going to get you there faster than operating without intensity. So, given the two situations that Ken threw out our way, like, hey, should I go out so fast on round 1 that I crash and burn overall, or should I go out at a bit more even keel that I can sustain? Whichever one of those two paces, when you finish the final round, yielded the faster overall time, is the one that you should pursue most of the time. That is overall the good decision to make right there. With that being said, so yes, I stand by that. So overall, that's what you want to do. You want to move in a way and at a pace, obviously, that you can do safely. Hopefully that goes without saying. But at a pace that when the workout's over, yielded the quickest time for you. So if you're one of those lunatics that you can go out super fast on round 1 that almost seems too fast, but then you somehow hold on for rounds 2 and 3, unbelievably so, that gets you the faster pace, then hey, good for you, as long as you were safe the whole time. But if you're one of those other ones, you're like, nope, I go out way too fast on round 1, then I crash and burn. What works out better for me is I go out moderate, and then I maintain it, and by the end, I couldn't have gone out any faster even if I wanted to. Great, then that's where you should be. However, here's the other thing. I'm also a fan of experimentation because some people are more capable than they give themselves credit for. So every now and then, I think there's value in not being afraid to do a little experiment, and if you don't PR, whoop-de-doo, who cares? You can learn something about yourself. So let's go back to the Helen example. 3 rounds for time, 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, 12 pull-ups. So let's say you're going to do an experiment. You're like, you know what? I've done Helen a bunch of times. I know the pace that I have to take off on these 400-meter runs that allows me to go right to the kettlebell and start swinging, then right to the pull-up bar, do the pull-ups. Then as soon as my feet hit the ground after pull-up number 12, I'm out the door again for the run. Like I've got it down. And by the end, I feel like I'm spent. That if I'd run any faster, I would have had to stare at the kettlebell a bit. I would have had to stare at the pull-up bar a bit. Like I've got it down to a science. I got nothing left. Fantastic. But the only way you truly know that you couldn't have gone any faster and that it's not possible and that you don't have anything left is if you actually tried and failed. Now the word failure, all of a sudden people are like, that's it, see, I knew it, CrossFit, dangerous. No, fail doesn't mean compromise safety. Fail doesn't mean you're doing something inappropriate. Fail just means, here's what it means. You're like, you know what, I'm going to do a little experiment today. I know what that pace in the first 400-meter run should be, but I'm going to see what happens if I run a little bit harder. And one of two things is going to happen. You're going to come in from the run. Maybe you can sustain it on round number 1. You take off for the 400-meter in round number 2, and you either have to slow down because you're so tired, or you can maintain the run pace, and you get back to the kettlebell, and you just have to have your hands on your hips and you stare at it and you hyperventilate for 30 seconds because that pace was too fast for you. Well, then guess what? You learned that the pace was too fast for you. And then you're still doing Helen, still doing functional movement. You just had to stare at the kettlebell for 30 seconds, and then you continued at your workout at what is a more appropriate pace. Fitness was achieved. It's all good. You learned something that day. On top of getting fit, you learned that you were right. You know your pacing really, really well. Congratulations, that's valuable. But the other thing might happen as well. You might have taken off on that pace that you just consider just a smidge, just a little inappropriately fast on that first 400-meter run. And you did the swings, and you did the pull-ups, and you took off for round number 2, and you're like, oh boy, I'm gonna try to hold that same pace, that mildly inappropriate pace, but it stings. My lungs are on fire. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. But then what happens if you do? And then what happens if you get back in, and you actually, even though you're fatigued and you're breathing heavy, you can do the swings and you do the pull-ups and you hold on for the final round and you do better than you ever did at Helen. It stings worse than it ever did because you pushed that pace. You never compromised your safety. Well, then what did you learn? You learned that your threshold for discomfort is actually higher than you previously thought. And good for you. That's fantastic. And that's incredibly valuable as well. It doesn't mean you need to go there all the time, but you learned about yourself. And there's tremendous value there. So, again, I would choose the pace, to get back to Ken's question, that overall, when you work out, yields to the fastest time in a safe and appropriate manner, because that's going to help you out. But I do think there's a wonderful value in some experimentation so that you truly know what you're capable of. And then we have days where you can hang it out a bit, right? Then we have dedicated sprint days where we're doing 8 by 200 meter repeats, 6 by 400 meter repeats, 3 800 meter repeats, 10 100 meter repeats, whatever it is, row intervals, bike intervals, the whole 9 yards. And then on those days, since those are interval style training, you can do your 6 by 400 meter repeats. You can do each one of those 400 meter repeats at a pace that would be definitely unsustainable in Helen in a mixed modality multi-round workout where there is no rest. So you can do that fast 400, recover 2 to 3 minutes, hit it again. And those are critical days for building your engine as well. And sadly, those are days that it's very easy for a lot of people to blow off because they're like the L-sit. They're not sexy. They don't look great on Instagram, but they are so positively impactful to your overall fitness that I feel you would be negligent if you didn't do them. They're so incredible. So that's it. I hope that helps everybody. And I love these. These AMAs are so much fun. They're an absolute blast. They're some of my favorite conversations. So thanks for all the questions. Thanks to Linchpin for being absolutely phenomenal. Enjoy your rest day. And we'll talk again soon.